All right, I'm here with Coach Luis Rivera Santiago from Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it's exciting. I have a soft spot in my heart for Northwestern. I wrestled in the prior to the GPAC. I wrestled, against Northwestern all the time. I know Coach Dahl. I know Coach Bartlett very well. Um, but this is kind of a unique year for you because you are in a recruiting year. Um, why don't you let us know what are some of the things you're looking for in recruits?
Yeah, I mean, when this whole year has just been, year zero, so recruiting is the most important part, especially this first semester. Just um, texting, calling, making contacts with recruits. Um, yeah, I think I've talked to upwards of like 40 or 50 recruits right now, and it's just like my phone is just going off nonstop. So that's awesome. But yeah, no, as far as what I'm looking for in recruits is, with obviously some wrestling experiences is desirable. But with girls and women's wrestling growing at the rate that it is, you're getting new girls coming into the sport all the time. So really for me, the most important thing is just that you have a desire to grow in the sport, just to grow as a person in general. Um, One of my like kind of mottos is a little cheesy is like progress over perfection. So as long as that girls don't need to be good now, right? It's like I don't need them to be world beaters right away. As long as they have a desire to grow in the sport, develop their skills, to see how good they can get and how far they can go if they put in all their effort into um, you know being a better wrestler, being the best student they can be, and also growing in their faith as well. As Northwestern is a Christian institution.
Yeah, it's a big part of Northwestern though. Definitely something that people need to know before they sign up for Northwestern. But it's also a really cool part about Northwestern that it is a lot of faith based. Everything's faith based there. Yeah. So, you talked about wrestling experience, and I've been talking to some coaches, and we've talked about athletic ceiling. Sometimes when you get that kid that started in second or third grade, and by the time they're a senior in high school, man, there might not be a lot more. They might have already reached their
Yeah.
ceiling, but you catch someone that started eighth grade, freshman, sophomore, junior year, man, they have a high ceiling, and that's something that you can really work with. Is there something, you know? maybe talk to some girls that are maybe even high school girls thinking about going out for wrestling and what can happen, with coming to a program like Northwestern.
Yeah, I mean, it's just funny that one of the girls that's going to wrestle for me next year. She's a freshman here at Northwestern right now. I got two of them that are freshmen this year, that will go on to wrestle for me next year. And she actually has zero wrestling experience, right? So she got connected with one of my other commits, and they talked about wrestling. She got her in the room. They rolled around a bit, and then she really wanted to try it. So she came up to me or she contacted me, met me in my office, and said, "Hey, I want to try this." I let her know, hey, this is exactly kind of what you're getting yourself into. Like, I know that you don't have an experience, but if you're going to wrestle on this team, then the expectations for you are going to be the same. Obviously, like my expectations for what the outcomes are going to be are a little less, but the fact is that, when you're coming to practice, you're going to take advantage of your reps. You're going to be focused. Your attitude's going to be good. Um, and obviously, there's bad days. People have bad days, but like the idea is, and there's going to be grace there too as well. But it's making sure that when we're in the room, we're trying to make the best of all the time that we have. um, but yeah, I've worked with her for this first semester. I mean, first time she stepped on the mat was in August. It's, 4 months later, she's actually looking like she's starting to pick it up pretty well. She looks like a wrestler. They learn pretty quick. That's been my experience with girls anyways, for the most part, is to start coaching girls like 3 years ago. Once we added it to our RWC, we added a girls session to that once they sanctioned it in the state of Iowa. So what I've learned with that was it's just girls just they learn so much faster. They ask a lot of questions too, which is my favorite thing about it too, is they ask why a lot or they want to understand. And that's really important to me as well, which is why I think I kind of mesh well with coaching women is they really want to understand. And that's good for me because if they don't understand, they can't apply it well. So that's just been my experience so far. Um, so yeah, like you said, with having girls that are, like they start in eighth grade or even as freshmen in high school. And you just find out that they just have a natural affinity for it, or they learn really quickly, or they're just really talented. But they also put a lot of work, like Mariah Benedict, who's going to come wrestle for me next year. She's only been wrestling since I believe either eighth grade or as a freshman. I can't remember, but one of those two. And she's a dog. Like she she is very physical, which is one of the things that stuck out to me right away with her is that she just wants to go out there and scrap. When she came on her recruiting visit, actually, one of the things she said when she was here was that, when I get on the mat, I just want to make sure that whenever I wrestle somebody, they don't want to get on the mat with me again. And I'm like, all right, that's awesome. I love to hear that kind of intensity. I mean, she still has a few things we need to kind of clean up with her, but that's good. That means there's growth, right? She's not like tapped out, like we said, right?
Yep.
Um, she's got a lot of areas she can sharpen, but there's a really high ceiling there. I'm really excited to get her in the room. So
Yeah, Mariah, I've known Mariah since her freshman year. I believe she took a trip with me down to Florida, wrestled on Team Iowa and stuff. So I've known her, really like her. She's just a great kid. So great recruit for you. Man, Northwestern always has had a good tradition with wrestling, and I've known the coaches. Uh, your club has supported the girls for the last few years, like you've talked about since sanctioning. I know some of the girls that are going up there. Um, why don't you take me through like the recruiting process? If someone wanted to go to Northwestern, how would they start the recruiting process with you?
well, usually we have on our Instagram page at NWCW Wrestling. We have a link to our questionnaire on there. That's one of the best ways that I can get in contact with people, with girls that want to be recruited in college, or going to our nwcraiders.com, and clicking on our questionnaires tab on there and finding women's wrestling, or going to women's wrestling, and you can find the questionnaire under our sport. Um, that's just the easiest way that it gets to me on our we actually adopted a new system called Teamworks this year that's pretty awesome. It kind of really it makes the recruiting process a lot easier for us to kind of keep all of our information in one location. But once I get that information, it gives me their contact info, whether it's phone, email. I reach out, and we try to schedule that first phone call. That first phone call with me is just kind of get to know them and kind of just try to understand, what it is about wrestling that they love, why they want to go on and pursue it in college, trying to understand kind of what motivates them and kind of get a better picture of what it is that kind of drives them to get better at wrestling and why they love it so much. At the end of the day, wrestling is a sport. So it's supposed to be fun. It's a game, right? It's like we talk about wrestling as a lifestyle. But it's not really wrestling that's the lifestyle. It's everything outside of wrestling that is, right? You gotta manage your diet, be good in the classroom, be disciplined in those areas. But once we get to competition, that's where we get to have the most fun, right? We get to showcase all the stuff that we've learned, all the stuff we've been working on, all the improvements we've made. So, yeah, so getting to know them on phone calls, establishing a relationship with them is important for me to make sure that they know that like the most important thing to me in terms of coaching is the relationships I build with them. Because the better I know them, the better I can coach them. Um, Usually after the phone call, I send them an application, get them accepted, talk about visits, all that stuff. They come out on a visit, they do all the whole shebang, the tour. They get to meet with me in person. Usually mom and dad are with them. Get to show them around our facilities and kind of let them know what we're all about at Northwestern and what I'm looking to build here at Northwestern and our women's program. Um, and then usually after that, yeah, it's just kind of just making sure I stay in touch with them. I try to do my best. Obviously I'm talking to a lot of girls, but making sure that I keep tabs with them and making sure that like I look at results on Flow, shoot them a text when I can to wish them good luck at their duels or their tournaments, and just kind of shoot them a congratulations depending on how they did, or encouragement when they don't get the result they want.
Yeah. So since you mentioned Flow, are you still using Track Classic View, or have you figured out Flow Wrestling better?
I've used the Flow Wrestling one more. Actually, yeah, that one it wasn't too difficult for me to adjust to. I really like it, but I do use Classic View on some of them, right? I had like just yesterday this Spencer tournament that they had um for some reason it wasn't working on Flow, and I had to go to Classic View on track. So yeah, I was just trying to figure that out too. Sometimes that's throws a bit of a wrench in things, but
It might be my age. I'm still a Track Classic View kind of guy. So
yeah.
I know it's been a struggle for a lot of people, but you younger guys can figure that stuff out. Talk about walking around Northwestern, seeing the facilities. What are the facilities like? It's been a couple years since I've been up there, but man, last time I was there, there's really nice facilities on campus.
Yeah, I mean, just from when I was in college, I came here. I went to Northwestern as well from 2012 to 17. But when I stepped on foot on campus in 2012, like the whole campus was just completely different. Like our library wasn't even there. There was like two extra dorms on campus. There's um, yeah, it's been a lot of change. We added in, I think it was 2014. We added our fitness center, which in the RC was just this open gym that had like a auxiliary basketball courts, some old school racquetball courts that it just has like a dungeon door on it. You walk in, you play some racquetball. If you want to watch anybody play, you got to take this spiral staircase to the top so you can watch. You look down on them as they play, but um, now, yeah, they updated that back in 2013 or 14, I believe, when they fixed that up. They added a gym for the public and also for students to use. Um, and then they added the athletic weight room, I think in 2015, back when I was a junior in college. That was awesome because it allowed us to get a new wrestling room. Our old wrestling room was the old women's wrestling or dance room, sorry, the old dance room. And it was like probably we get like you had like a mat and a quarter in there. Now we got about two mats in our new one. Um, just recently, as of August, they opened our Den Hartog Athletic Complex, which was an addition for football, but it also included new film room, right? So we got a big film room, but that's for everyone to use as long as you schedule it, right? So if there's an open window, you can schedule it. We use it. We're actually planning on. I think we might have already done this on the men's side. We scheduled to use it for NCAAs to watch the finals in there.
That's
Let's see
awesome.
what other additions. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what other additions there were, but I know there's other big plans. Like they tore down Cole and Brander Hall, so meant a dorm I lived in when I was in college. And they're doing a Colin Brander Plaza, which is going to be just a nice, big open plaza area that's going to lead into the football stadium. That's going to be pretty awesome to look at. I know there's going to be a phase two to that too, where they're going to put like a brick facade on our football stadium, so it just looks a lot more. It looks a lot more legitimate, a lot more D1-esque, I guess you could say, but
Yep.
without being a stadium.
Yeah.
So,
Well, Northwestern is, definitely has a tradition in football for sure.
oh yeah,
I think everybody in the state of Iowa that follows any college sports, knows that Northwestern is very good at football. Uh, the area, oh, actually, before I move on, I got to tell you a story because I like telling stories because I'm getting old. You mentioned the racquetball, right? So anytime we would go to Northwestern or Northwestern would come down for a tournament, all of a sudden, my coach was Coach Ron Beeman, and Coach Beeman and Bartlett would be missing. Neither team could find their coaches, and they were always on the racquetball court. They go play racquetball for like an hour, after weigh-ins, or while we're warming up, getting ready for the tournament. They disappear and go play racquetball. You have to ask Bartlett about that sometime. It was always
yeah,
kind of funny.
Coach Bartlett's a beast in the racquetball court. Like I played a
Yes,
couple
he
games
is.
with him one time, and I just like he still kicks my butt. Like I had no shot winning a game against him. So
Yeah, those two were crazy. They were awesome at it, and you probably ran all over the place, and he stood in one spot
hmm
for the most part.
yep,
Yep.
exactly.
Um, the area up there, beautiful, beautiful area up in Orange City, neat town. What are some of the things that you've been around Northwestern now quite a few years? What do you like about staying in the Northwestern area? What in Orange City?
Yeah, so I mean, it was different for me. I have a kind of a weird story on how I ended up in Orange City. Um, I mean, I made contact. I had a teammate of mine that was going to come here and play football, and I played football here for a couple years too. I didn't actually, well, I played football. I practiced. And we also had a guy who was a senior when I was like a freshman in high school, was playing football here. He told us about it. He told me that hey, they have wrestling teams, so if you want to check that out, got in contact with Coach Dahl, and I'm from Arizona originally, so um, and my mom and I, it was just us growing up basically. So I got a ton of siblings, but it was when I moved to Arizona, it was just my mom and I. So when we financially weren't the best situation to go to come on a visit. So I literally just from my conversations with Coach Dahl and kind of getting to know him and just he was probably the coach I had the best relationship with. So I just told him, hey coach, send me my letter of intent, I'll sign. Um, and yeah, I ended up in signing to go to Northwestern and wrestle for the Raiders, but without actually stepping foot in Iowa. So yeah, when I got here in the fall of 2012, like it was a not, I don't want to say a rude awakening. I'm still here, but it was definitely a culture shock. Like I come from a town that I thought was small, it's like 75,000 people in
Uh-huh.
Arizona.
Yep.
Yeah, and I come to Orange City, Iowa was like 6,000. So I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is small. Um, and yeah, it was one of my favorite things about it though was that I lived in Phoenix for a long time. I lived in Lake Havasu for my high school and middle school years. But I love the small town feel, the peace and quiet, the getting to know your neighbors, and going to the grocery store and seeing somebody you know every time, and random people just coming up to you and saying hi. Just that was a weird thing my first year here. It's like, hey, Midwest nice is actually like a real thing. Um, and then going back home after a year and like seeing somebody at the grocery store and just making eye contact with them and saying hi, and then they look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I forgot I'm not in Orange anymore. But really, the thing that spoke to me was just the yeah, how intentional people are about like having relationships with people and building new ones, like just making connections with people that they don't even know, but they see that you're going to Northwestern and you're a new face, so they just ask you, hey, what's your name? How are you doing? How did you end up here? What are you doing all the way here from Arizona? And that was the number one. Well, why would you ever come to Iowa? So, you're in Arizona. And I'm like, well, have you been in there in the summer? Because it's not very fun either. So, um, but yeah, just the relationship aspect of it and just being able to, have a real community that people care about each other is probably the biggest pull, which is why, you know, 13 years later, I'm still here. So
I was, being from Arizona, I gotta ask, are you enjoying our December so far? A record amount of snow. It's really been
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it has been a lot of snow, and normally I would tell you I actually I like the cold because I can always put more on. I can only take so much off when when it was hot. And I'm from Lake Havasu City, so like that's like the hottest city in Arizona. So it's like 100, and like I took my wife there probably I think like 4 years ago for the first time, and we were there for a buddy's wedding. Who I don't know, my buddy was getting married in July for some reason. That was a terrible idea. And it was outside. And it was like it didn't get below 112 the entire time we were there, and it was mostly like sitting at 118. So it was like, geez, getting into your car and getting burnt by your seatbelt if you're not careful. So,
Yep.
um, but yeah, it's been the weather wise. I love the cold, or the snow, I should say, but the negative temps kind of suck. Not gonna lie.
Yes. Well, I don't think anybody
Yeah.
ever gets used to that. Nobody gets used to 110 plus degrees, and nobody ever gets used to negative 30 either. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I
uh,
used to I worked here. I mean, I was here for the winters, and I'd go home for the summers, and I worked a construction job over the summers just to also kind of keep me in shape. I was just lifting, center blocks all day basically. But it was just I didn't win with the weather, that's for sure.
that is definitely for sure. Been around a few first year programs. It's always a challenge, right? I mean, you're working with mostly freshmen, and that's
Yeah.
part of it. Establishing a culture. What are some of the things you plan on doing to establish the culture you're looking for at Northwestern?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the first thing that we have to do is I have to be really clear with my expectations, right? The expectation that I have with the culture I'm trying to build is that, hey, like when we're on this team, we're gonna have a room full of girls that are trying to get better and encourage each other and push each other to be the best versions of themselves. Um, you know, Being on a men's team for the last 8 years has been, you know, they're very different in terms of the cultures. That's probably is they probably the biggest difference between the men and women is that the way that they their relationships with each other is very different, right? The guys like they like to make fun of each other, they like to poke fun at each other, but sometimes there's a line you have to draw, right? It's like, hey, like we can have fun, we can poke fun at each other, we can do all that stuff, but it's at the end of the day, we're teammates. We got to push each other. We got to encourage each other when we're down. We're not trying to kick each other down. So, and you know, making it clear with those girls that like, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Like if you're gonna be here and what you're doing isn't contributing to that, obviously we're gonna try to address that because like if I recruited them for a reason, right? If there's ever conflict, I don't want them to think like, hey, at the moment that you're not contributing to this team, you're out. Like that's not what I'm trying to do either. I don't want to kind of build that kind of tension either. Um, but just letting them know like, hey, we're just gonna have conversations about it. We're gonna try to work through it. Obviously, at some point, if it gets to a point, then we kind of have to have a conversation. But outlining expectations is super clear, and super important at the top of my priority list, making sure that they always know what's expected of them. And also just making sure that we just have a team, like building team cohesion, right? Whether that's like through, doing like a fall retreat before the semester to make sure that we just kind of um, get the girls around each other and talking about their goals and how that they can hold each other accountable. And not just how they can hold each other accountable, but like specifically how they can do that, right? Because not everybody likes to be called out, right? Most people don't like to be just called out and say, "Hey, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing," right? And
Yep.
and giving each other the permission to call each other out in the way that we'd like to be called out, right? Is letting them know, "Hey, I see you're doing this. That's not necessarily in line with what you told me you wanted to achieve, right?" So to be able to kind of create a space where they can be honest with each other without being like cutthroat either.
Yep.
Um, but mostly I think it's just going to come with just spending time with each other, understanding what we want to get out of this, out of our time at Northwestern, and what we want to accomplish as a team. Because yeah, wrestling's an individual sport when you're on the mat, but we're still scoring points as a team. So it's just we gotta find that balance too.
Nice. Um, I can tell just by talking to you. You're a good coach. You got some good coaching experience. You've been with the men's team. Who are some of the coaches that have inspired you over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Coach Dahl. Coach Dahl's been a huge one, right? He's been I mean, when I came to Northwestern, I was a immature, 17-year-old kid, and he really poured his mission, right? He treats his wrestling team as his mission, right? It's his ministry. He likes to make sure that by the time that we leave here, that we're set up to be the men, the fathers, the husbands that, excuse me, um, that we're meant to be, or to equip to face challenges. To be the best version of ourselves in all areas of our lives, and make sure that we're just prepared for adversity, right? Because that's going to happen. It's really easy to kind of get down when adversity hits, but making sure that we have the tools needed to kind of push through that. Coach Bartlett was also a huge one too. He came in the room a lot. He's wise beyond his years. There's still some things he taught me that he wrestled a long time ago for Iowa State, but there's still some tips and tricks that he uses that I still use to this day, and I still try to coach on. I try to pass those on to the guys on the team, and now the women as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little different because it's folk style to freestyle, but let's see. My high school coach, Alex Ruiz, he's no longer there anymore. Actually, like I think a couple of years after I graduated, he moved over to Chicago, or not Chicago, Illinois, Southern Illinois. And he was super impactful in my life and making sure that I stayed disciplined during my season. He made me tough. He made me a tough wrestler. And he came out to my wedding back in 2020. So like that's the last time I saw him in person, was back in 2020. We still talk all the time. And he was super. He was the first coach who made me realize that, when I was in high school, that like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to coach when I'm done wrestling. Um, and then I had a mentor that went to the Leadership Academy in Florida one year. And my mentor was Omi Acosta, head men's coach at Life University.
Yep.
And just kind of and that was kind of more of like a Caribbean connection a little bit. I originally am from Puerto Rico. I was born there and moved to Arizona when I was about like 3 or 4, but he's from the Dominican Republic, and just being able to kind of connect over that as well. And then I actually I wrestled for Puerto Rico too on the senior level for a little bit. And actually, he happened to be out at a tournament when I was trying to qualify for the Central American and Caribbean Games. So he was out there as well. And just the way that his philosophy on wrestling of like, it's a fight, right? Obviously, like I said, it's a game, but at the same time, it's like you're fighting. You're just shy of actually fighting your opponents. So, but his approach to it about like, hey, just you want to go out there, you want to push the pace, um, you want to go out there and just see how good you can be, um, and not don't let the fears and anxieties prevent you from going out there and enjoying the sport of that we get the opportunity to compete in too as well. And for him, it's like he's like, I don't care where you're from, I don't care the color of your skin, I don't care what your political background is or your philosophy is, but it's like when we're on the mat, we're the same, we're wrestlers. So
Yeah, and Life University has had a lot of success in the NAIA. If I
yeah.
remember right, was he a Grandview graduate?
Yeah, yeah, he was on their first championship team actually. So
That's what I was thinking. I keep looking at this, that coaching tree out of Wartburg is just crazy. The Mitchells and stuff like that. Now you got hit. Just I think it's really cool to all the where everything come from. I know Coach Miller really well. I've sat and had some conversations with him, and it's really neat to see all the stuff that's coming out of there. But Northwestern has a great tradition in coaching too. I know Coach Dahl, again, Coach Bartlett. Um, you mentioned, of course, the women, and I think we've talked already, but women wrestle freestyle in college. How hard do you think that transition is? How hard was it for you to transition, or did you do a lot of freestyle prior to going to college?
yeah, so prior to going to college, my I didn't. I mean, I wrestled folk style more, but freestyle was always more um, natural for me. I was a big neutral heavy wrestler. Like I wasn't a very good mat wrestler. Actually, even in college, I wasn't. Uh, Towards the end, I started developing it, um, but no, I was definitely like 100 and some odd wrestling matches in college, and I think I have like 9 career pins. So anytime I stepped on the mat, it was like 7 minutes for sure. So,
Yep.
but it's the transition to freestyle. It's not necessarily. I don't think it's really that difficult of a transition. The hardest part is really more like strategically and tactically, right? Like the you kind of have to be a little bit more patient, right? It's like making sure that you pick and choose your spots to shoot a little bit more wisely. Because obviously you can give up scores um, pretty much at any time, right? You can attack and part the opponent hits into you the right way and they expose you to your back, and all of a sudden now like it was your attack, but you gave up points. Um,
Yep.
um, but it's definitely more. Uh, I would say it's called freestyle, but I honestly think it's not limiting, but it just requires you to be a little bit more aware of like, hey, I need to pick and choose my spots a lot wiser. Um, But as far as wrestling, like it starts on the mat, right? So it's just you just have to be a little bit more disciplined in your positioning, right? Because if I get stuck underneath somebody, it's like yeah, I could most of the time in folk style, you might want to try to grab onto an elbow and try to stalemate the position, but like you want to get the heck out of there in freestyle. Usually, you don't want them to lock up a head pinch or a gator roll or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I was always a big freestyle guy. I loved it in high school. Actually, it was probably harder for me to transition back once I wrestled through college and coached a folk style for so long. When I went back to wrestling freestyle, um, and try to make a senior level run, that was a big transition too. Just um, trying to make sure that I kind of click the kind of switch back over to freestyle mode because especially when you're coaching folk style for 8 or 9 years, it's like you kind of it's like freestyle was my better style growing up, but then it ended up switching like folk style. Like I got way better at folk style than freestyle. So
Yeah. I
um,
I
but
and I agree with you. I think I love freestyle, like watching freestyle.
mhm.
Obviously, I'm at my age, we didn't do a lot of freestyle wrestling, but I've learned it over the years and really enjoy it. But it is very tactical because I would give up a lot of exposure points off of my off of my shots and things like that. So now it's good to hear that. And you're open. If a girl came to you and didn't have any freestyle, obviously you got girls that don't have any wrestling experience at all. You're looking for somebody that's going to go out and compete.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tactics and the strategy behind it, like it's like once you learn those, you're gonna be fine. It's just gonna be a bit of you're gonna take some. It's gonna be a bit of a learning curve in terms of that aspect, but there's a lot of things in freestyle that that you can take over to folk style that are really good. And you're actually seeing a lot of that in like at the Division 1 level on the men's side as well. It's like you're seeing a lot of high paced offense, but you're not seeing as much. You're seeing a lot of the high level guys really um, controlling the center of the mat, right?
Yep.
And that's super important to do in both styles, especially in freestyle. Obviously, you can give up points on the edge if you step out, but in folk style with these inconsistent, edge of the mat stall calls, you have to keep your butt to the middle, like, and that's just good habit to make anyways, just because if I control the center of the mat and I'm pushing them to the edge, like I'm making the area they have to wrestle in smaller and I'm making mine bigger. So once they circle in, like they're gonna circle into one of my attacks. So it's just I think it's just a good habit to have on both sides, just to be able to, keep your butt to the center and take them to the edge.
Nice. Last question before we kind of move into the fun stuff. As a coach, there's in first head coaching job, but there is stuff that we want our athletes to take away from us. What do you want the women from your program to take away throughout life?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with wrestling, right? Wrestling is you know, um, it's a struggle, right? The sport of wrestling is a struggle, but it's by the time they get out of here, I want them to know that they can do difficult things, right? The biggest obstacle I run into with coaching, girls with especially at the club level, um, is their confidence, right? Or they don't believe they can do certain things, or like I'm not, or they already count themselves out before they've even attempted to do it. And just, and that's hard because when I see them do, certain things in practice, or I see them, um, wrestle, I'm like, hey, like, I know you can do it. I know you can. So it's like for them to get them to that point where they can really believe in themselves and know that they can do difficult things. And that yeah, it's gonna be hard and it's gonna you're gonna experience some discomfort, but that's a good thing because we have like cliche sayings like the comfort, your comfort zone is nice, but nothing grows there. Um, so just yeah, to be able to know that they can go out there and persevere through tough times and push through adversity, and that they can get something out of it, even if they don't get the result they were necessarily looking for.
Nice. Well, let's move into getting to know you just a little bit better as a person. Food, huge thing for wrestlers. We all love food, right?
Yeah,
What would you say your guilty pleasure food is?
man. I'm a big cookie guy. I love cookies and ice cream.
Cookies
All
and
right,
ice
so I
cream.
probably cookies and ice cream. Yeah, I'm a big chocolate. Yeah, actually, my wife and I are big cookies and ice cream people too as well. So like sometimes we'll just go get a pint of vanilla ice cream or a quart of vanilla ice cream and make some cookies, put them in a bowl, get them nice and warm, put them in the bowl together, and just yeah, veg out for a bit.
Yeah, I can't say that that's a bad thing. I love ice cream myself. That's probably for sure, that's my guilty pleasure food. Um, when we're talking about, post weigh-ins, a lot of times I like to hear what coaches have to say. What do you have your athletes eat post weigh-in? When you got that 1 to 2 hour window.
Yeah, it's yeah, super important you don't go nuts on that, but something light, but something that you're going to get a lot of energy out of, right? So obviously um you want you want to get carbs in your body because you're going to burn some energy really quick. So getting some simple carbs in you, whether it's like granola bars with with chocolate. We actually make the Raider mix. That's what it is. We have a trail mix that we make. It's got like all the crap that we normally wouldn't want our athletes to eat before they're making weight. It's got like chocolate chips, like cinnamon checks in it, that kind of stuff. But stuff that the sugars that you're gonna burn and use right away. Peanut butter is a good one. We usually get bagels with peanut butter or cream cheese. Uh, Nuts are always good. Let's see, honey. Honey is good. So I'm a big peanut butter and honey kind of guy. So I would always get a bagel with peanut butter and honey on it.
That's a great combination. That's one of my favorite things to throw together when I need a quick meal is peanut butter and honey sandwich. I don't know,
Yeah,
something about the combination there. It's awesome.
yeah,
Um,
and also making sure we hydrate too is fine. Make sure you get the water in you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, you've been around Orange City for quite a while. If I was coming up, where is the place to go out to eat?
Oh man, that's a good question. I love one of the two places in town that most people want to go to in Orange City are either Los Tulipanes, Mexican restaurant here in town, or 88 Chinese. I think 88 is probably one of my favorite places to eat here. So I'm a big Chinese food guy. So
Yeah, both sound good. Both sound really good.
yeah,
Vacation spots. I've learned over the last year or so of doing this podcast, people are one of two things. They're either a beach person or they're a mountain person. It seems like where it would your ideal vacation or your bucket list vacation be?
man, that's yeah, great question. I'd hate to say I'm both a beach and a mountain person, but I love them both. If I had to pick one, it's the mountains, for sure. I like just the quietness of it, but I've always wanted to go to Japan, right? So I've been I love Japan's the history there and the architecture and they're just the aesthetic. So I've always wanted to go to Japan. Um, but if I'm thinking about like realistically, like where I would want to go, um, in terms of like where I'd have the most fun, probably Italy. I think Italy would be
Yeah,
awesome.
it does sound like a fun one. You're not the first person that said Italy. I think
Yeah,
that would be a really fun place to go.
yeah.
Practice playlist. I know. So you've come from the men's side. You're going to a women's side as I'm in my 50s. Grandpa Rock is what they say I listen to. I have zero control of the practice playlist. Uh, what's on your practice playlist?
Oh man. So I love anything with a good that's got a good rhythm and beat to it. So, but I put on a lot of like I put a lot of like Latino music on. I put like Bad Bunny on, like reggaeton, or I put some bachata, which is or salsa music. I like anything that I can move to, anything that I kind of can kind of get my rhythm down to, especially when I'm drilling and I'm trying to warm up my shots. Anything that I can kind of dial in my timing. So that I can kind of get the same thing too with the girls that like with our RWC girls there, they can make fun of my playlist. So I had to make their own playlist because otherwise I kept getting roasted at practice. So
Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes they'll play music and it's stuff that I listen to. I'm like, how come when you play it, it's okay, but when I play it, it's some old guy's music, So,
I know.
but it sounds like you might have a little bit better, playlist for the girls that are around today. I wouldn't probably have most of that on mine. Um, right now, binging things on TV. I grew up where you had to be home at 6 o'clock at night so you could watch the show. Now you can
Mhm.
watch anything. Is there something that you and your wife really like to watch on TV together?
Yeah, we watch right now. It's Stranger Things. We're watching Stranger Things on Netflix. The last season or the first part of the final season came out, so we're still working our way through that. There's only 4 episodes. It's taken us like 3 weeks to get through 4 episodes, but busy times. We actually just
Yep.
had a baby like 4 months ago, so that's been obviously a very time consuming part, but it's been awesome. So we had a lot of really big things happen. And I'm getting us off track a little bit, but
And
just
it's
the just
actually
the
my next
crazy.
question, so you're good to go. My next question is
Oh, okay.
wife and family. We can't do our jobs without having a great support system at home. Why don't you go ahead and continue because I know you're going to talk about your family.
Yeah, no, yeah, my wife is awesome. We got married in 2020, during COVID. So that was interesting. We got to have a normal wedding though. It was kind of in that sweet spot where like in July where we got to where things kind of started to go back to normal for a little bit. We had our first child, our son Luca, in on August 12th. He was just 4 months on Friday actually. So he's getting big. But let's see. This last year has been insane because I knew they were in talks about getting a women's program for a while, or at least the rumor of it that they were thinking about adding women's wrestling. So I kind of prepared myself for that. Actually, um, I wasn't 100% sure. If you had told me like 13 years ago that I was going to be coaching, women someday, I would have been like, no, that's crazy. There's no way. And then it was like 3 years ago once I started coaching the girls that I really found that I kind of actually connect with them a lot better. We tend to mesh a bit better in terms of like my coaching style, my personality. Um, but my buddy Matt Atwood, who's actually the head women's coach at the University of Providence, who kind of got me interested in coaching girls.
I know
Um,
Matt.
yeah,
He
yeah.
he
So
was
yeah,
he was
Matt's
at
on.
Midland for a while, wasn't he? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah. Oh
yep?
no, he was at Concordia.
Oh, was
Um,
it Concordia? I thought he was at Midland for a
yeah,
little while before, but
I
I could
think
be wrong on that.
I think he coached. Yeah, he coached at. I believe he coached at Midland for a little bit. But yeah, we wrestled each other in college. He kicked crap out of me one year. That was rough. But and he actually never lets me forget about that. Actually, there's so, um, but he uh, I finished up the last 3 years coaching here. I was as a grad assistant, right? I wanted to work on getting my master's. Finished up my master's in March. Um, the position or the women's program got announced in April. Did through the whole interview process, got hired in June. Uh, and then my wife and I moved when she was like 8.5 months pregnant in
Ooh.
July, and then and then my son was born in August. So that 3 month stretch was just insane. So we moved into a we the a job, house, and baby, like three li major life stressors all happened within like a 2 month span. I'm like, it was crazy, but there's a lot of really good things though, right? It doesn't make it any less stressful, but it was a lot of really good things, a lot of blessings, a lot of prayers that we had that were answered, so that was awesome. But yeah, my wife's been she's been great. She's been very supportive of all the things I was doing. She was like, she was my sugar mama for 3 years while I was getting my my master's degree. So she was really supportive of me going to get that. Obviously, getting a master's degree is huge. So
Yep.
she had to bear the brunt of that for a bit. The um, Being a coach's wife is not an easy thing. Gone all of the time, late. I come home late from practice. So she's been a trooper and awesome with that, and just being a supportive wife, and just been a rock in my life. And she's been an awesome mom too for our first 4 months of parenting has been crazy, but it's been really rewarding too. So
Has he had the opportunity to be in the wrestling room yet?
not yet. No, actually, he would have been in there already, but like, I mean, actually, I take that back. He's been there twice. Take it back. Yeah, he's been in there a couple times, but usually it gets really hot in there, so we try not to get him in there too
Yeah.
often. So, um, but yeah, I told him as soon as he can walk, he's getting those shoes on. So,
Very good. Yeah, it's something I've done recently is really make sure we talk about family and wives because they are so important. My wife puts up with a whole heck of a lot with all the stuff I do around wrestling. I am going to invite you down. I got a wrestling meet Tuesday night. 4 teams will be there besides us. If you want to come down and watch that, I'll make sure to get you the information for that. I got a couple
but yeah,
girls
it'd
that
be awesome.
might be interested in watching. Um, Wrestling rules, man, freestyle changes all the time. Man, there's some crazy rules that it's gone through. But is there something, let's stick with folk style. And we can even talk college or high school. Is there some
Yep.
changes that you would like to see made in the rule set for either high school or college folk style?
Yeah, I think right now the way in college, high school, it's basically. I mean, they've made a lot of changes recently. It's basically college now. But
Yep.
obviously minus the writing time, which I would love to see writing time in high school. I feel like there's so many times where like coaches go auto bottom on it's their choice, and their kid could have gotten taken down and ridden for the whole first period. And I'm like, we're going down, and I'm like, why are we doing that? Put them in the best position to score points, right? So. Um, Writing time is I think huge because that's one thing that's really hard to transition from high school to college is just the how hard it is to uh how hard it is to um wrestle on the mat. But also if you're like in high school, if you're really good on top, but your opponent's just really good at not getting turned. Like there's no incentive to riding other than to turn, obviously. But if you're wrestling a high level high school wrestler, it's going to be really hard to turn them. So like to accumulate riding time, but not get any points for it at the end is kind of tough, especially if it comes down to if it comes down to losing by a point, or if you had that point you would have won, or if it goes to overtime, but if it would have been riding time, you'd have gone. Obviously, um, that changes things. You need people to be able to monitor riding time, and I think I've heard a couple of reasons why they haven't adopted it, but I feel like it would be maybe a little easier than they give themselves credit for. Um, in college, the easiest one is just making headgear optional. Like I think right now our high school um or college rules are actually probably the best rule set that we have. The edge stall calls are a little bit still, they're a little inconsistent, but I mean it's fine. I'm not too upset about it. Um but making headgear optional, I think would take care of a lot of issues. They had to change that rule where like, hey, the person's got to keep their headgear in their possession the whole time. Even if you slide it over to your corner, like you're gonna give up a team point. I'm like, just get rid of the headgear or make it an option, and that's you don't have to worry about it anymore. So
I'll agree
I'd
with
say
that.
that.
I hated headgear, hate wearing headgear.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
never liked it.
Most of the kids want cauliflower ear anyway. So
Yeah.
so
What would you think about step out point in folk style wrestling?
yeah, I am a big step out point guy. I don't know if that'd be the one I'd change first, but like I do think it would eliminate the stall calls on the edge because it makes it really objective. Um, I would say even making it to the point where like, a lot of people are upset about that because it makes they like the edge wrestling. I'd even go a step further and say, hey, just make it you have to have both feet completely out of bounds instead
Yeah.
of just one, right? Then you don't make the circle as small if you do that, right? If I go 1 foot out, that's fine, but if I go completely out of bounds, then award a stall point. You could even, if you really want to, you could even say, hey, the first one's a warning.
Yeah, no, that's not bad. I like the that just because I like the wrestling in the center of the mat, and it actually speeds up matches, probably makes it a little more watching friendly.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
Gonna give you a small test here. Fill in the blank. Wrestling has taught me to blank.
Be disciplined. Right, I have to, especially now more than ever, right, when I'm balancing father, being a husband, father, head wrestling coach. It's like I have to be disciplined with my time management. Obviously, there's some days where I would love to just sit on my couch and watch whatever it is I'm watching, or just, but I don't have I just don't have that luxury right now, to be able to, and that's a good thing, right? To be busy is a good thing. That means I'm in a position where like what I do matters. So yeah, discipline has been the biggest thing that it's taught me.
Awesome. So, not the organization, but wrestle like a girl. What does that mean to you, and what do you think that's going to mean to the Northwestern girls or women? I guess
Yeah,
it's
right.
Northwestern women's team.
That's a hard thing to switch to. I say girls a lot too, but yeah, it's like saying boys wrestling in high school. It's like you're in college, you just don't say it, but it's a lot easier to
Yep.
switch. But wrestle like a girl. I mean, honestly, it's just to be able to, obviously wrestling like a girl in the past was a way to kind of diminish what they're doing, right? You say you're out there wrestling like a girl, and that's I'm glad that that's made a shift, um, because there's some tough girls out there. There are, there's some girls out there that are just absolute killers, and I just love watching women's wrestling, and where it's come to now. But wrestling like a girl just means to go out there, and in spite of all of the things that, the misconceptions that people have about women's sports and women's wrestling, is that they're out there to compete and they're out there um, to put on a show, score points, and to put away, right? You go out there to score points and to make sure that you use your talents to the best of your ability, and to leave no doubt, right, that women belong in the sport and that they can compete at an elite level.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's amazing. We were at a meet just a couple weeks ago. It was a JV boys tournament, so it's not quite a great comparison, but JV boys and girls at the same time. And I don't know how many people that I talked to that day, and I talked to a lot of people when I'm at tournaments, said, "Boy, it's so much more fun to watch the round when the girls are going. The points are scored. They're just a more exciting sport." And I believe that. I think I've coached girls for the last 11 years, so I definitely believe that watching the girls' side is just a more exciting sport altogether.
Yeah, they tend to pick up the more technical aspects of things a lot better too. I mean, it's just they don't like guys that they just have to like rely on they'll try to rely on strength all the time, right? And that's something that you once you have make that a habit, it's really tough. Like I've had a lot of guys that like come in the room and that are they could be really really they could they could really turn a corner, but they rely on their habits that they've built, so they try to muscle
Yep.
everything, right? And once that clicks with them, they're like, hey, I don't actually have to muscle everything, right? If I'm in position, I drive at the right angle, I've got leverage, right? So, and the girls are a lot, they pick that up so much faster.
Yeah. Um, I've gotten through all the questions I had for you. It's been a great, fun talk. I'm glad to get to know you. What are some final thoughts you have for anybody, maybe girls that are thinking about coming to Northwestern, or maybe they don't even know that Northwestern existed?
Yeah, no, I mean, something that I would say is that if wrestling is a sport that you love and you want to pursue it in college, don't let your level of experience or your accolades stop you from doing that, right? There are plenty of people out there on both sides, on the men's and women's side, that didn't accomplish much in high school, but went on to do really good things because they just approached wrestling as something that they wanted to prove it and see how good they could get. So I would say don't let what you've accomplished to this point prevent you from seeking college wrestling. As long as you have a love for the sport and you want to get better, there's a place in the room for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your
Yeah.
time. Really appreciate it. It's really good to get to know you. Have a good night, and we will talk soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.